Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very sensitive topic for many, and if we look at the timeline of the actual inquiry into the abuse in state care, it's quite horrific how long it's actually taken to get to this point for survivors of abuse in care. So if we look when this first began, when we started the inquiry in February 2018, it then took a few years for us to get to the stage where the redress report and recommendations were ready. And the previous government received that redress report and recommendations in December 2021. Then fast forward 2 years into 2024, the report was finally tabled in this House. So the time frame from when the report and recommendations were received in December 2021 to the time it was even tabled in Parliament was quite distressing for survivors in itself, because knowing that those recommendations were ready and knowing that the previous government had an inkling of what was required by survivors for 2 years, before this report was even tabled. You would have thought, even though it wasn't tabled publicly in those 2 years, that the previous government would have been making plans in the background of what they were actually going to do in response once this was tabled. But unfortunately, the only response that happened, from what I can tell, is that rapid claims were looked into through MSD, the current system that survivors were saying very loud and clear was not a system that they were happy with. So fast forward to now, when as a government we are very committed to victims of crimes of sexual harm and violence. We want to make sure that we get this right for survivors in care. My response to this is looking at the $774 million investment into the redress system and also strengthening the care-based system to prevent, identify and respond to abuse in the future. Is a good start, because at least we've laid out in black and white in a short time frame of what we are actually going to do, not only for survivors of abuse in state and faith-based care in the past, but what we're going to do in the future to prevent them from happening again. Because, Madam Speaker, to be perfectly honest, compensation is not just about money. Redress is not just about money. It's also about knowing that our voices are being heard, that the hurt and harm that has been brought to this House and put in black and white in a report of what has happened, that their voice mattered and counted towards making sure that governments in the future and agencies in the future are doing everything they possibly can to prevent that harm from happening again, which is what this government has made a commitment to doing. We are in the process of implementing a seamless service so that survivors with claims with multiple agencies now have the ability, will have the ability to have those claims managed by one point of contact. Now, Madam Speaker, that is not a separate system in itself, but quite frankly, I would rather that all of that $774 million be invested into the survivors than building up a new system that may take years when these survivors have waited long enough to have their claims addressed. We may not even know if creating a new system will make that better in the future. This is not saying that we can't do this in the future, but just making sure that we address this as quickly as possible, allow claimants to make their claims, allow claimants that have previously made claims to have top-ups as quickly as possible, so that we're not dragging them through what's next for more years to come. Because, Madam Speaker, that is actually worse than doing something right now. And we need to make sure that we are doing something now, that we are showing our commitment, and that moving forward we are committing to make sure that this kind of horror does not continue into the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thanks, Speaker.
Okay. Yeah, I apologise to people if you hear me tapping away in the background, because it's like, I got to write down all these notes. Yeah. So my question to Karen is, what data does she have to support the claim that the new system will not improve outcomes for victims? I don't even think Erica Stanford would agree with what she just said, because Erica's out here saying, yeah, I acknowledge that we need a new redress scheme. And then Karen Chhour is like saying, well, guys, what would you prefer? Money to go to victims or a new system? But that's a false dilemma fallacy that she's just put forward. And also the problem here, right, she's trying to ignore the problem that Luxon came out and said, we're going to have a new redress scheme by this year. Where is it? That's a problem. That's a problem for survivors of abuse. So it's a big problem. And also, I've just opened up the timeline of inquiry, because she was talking about 2001. Okay, all right. Let's go through the timeline. So under the last Labour government, so in 2018, the Prime Minister announced the Royal Commission of Inquiry and appointed one member to undertake consultation on draft terms of reference. Okay, let's go to 2021. What's happening during that period? Well, we were having hearings. We were having faith-based redress hearings. Oh, and that's excluding the fact that COVID-19 did impact data collection. But yeah, so in 2021, we had hearings. that were done. Okay. Then 2022, we had more hearings. Okay, very important. I mean, hey, credit to Labour. They like getting evidence for stuff. 2023, okay, more inquiries were done. Very good. And then we get to 2024, June, final report of the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Historical Abuse and State Care. So that was presented, right? And then you get to November, and Luxon's like saying, okay, we're going to have a new thing by next year, or which is now this year. So that's the timeline. So I just want people to keep that in mind. I have put the link in the chat that people can look at for themselves, so they can see the timeline. There you go, guys. You can click on that and check it out for yourself. You know, that's what you got to do with a lot of these politicians. You've got to check their claims when they cite something. They make a claim.
Yeah.
Go look at it. You know, do your own research. This is how you how to do your own research properly. Okay.
So true. Okay, let's get to